Yeah, actually, come to think of it, it's kind of a Joe Biden vibe going on right there.
Yes.
It's like if he stumbled around a little bit, like, where am I? I'm going to trip over the cords.
That is Joe Biden.
It's totally Joe Biden. Welcome to today's episode of Decentralized TV here on Brighteon.com. I'm Mike Adams, and yes, we have a new DTV man, bionic mannequin showing off the swag there. But let's not talk about him right now. Let's invite Todd Pittner on, who is our co-host. Todd, there we go. Thanks, Todd. We got to get bionic DTV man out of the way. Welcome to the show, Todd. It's great to have you here.
Thank you. I'm excited about today. Everybody should be excited about the guest that we have on. I met him in person, and he is a force of nature.
Oh, I can't wait. This is going to be awesome. All right, let's welcome him to the show. Richard Grove is a forensic historian. He's got Grand Theft World is a theme, and that's also one of his many websites, getautonomy.info. Welcome, Richard. It's a pleasure to have you on today.
Hey, thank you, Mike. Thank you, Todd, for the invitation. And I'm looking forward to having a little exchange of facts and knowledge and how we can help the audience out today.
Well, I can't wait. And this is the first time that you and I are getting to meet, Richard. I know that you and Todd have known each other for some time, and Todd speaks very highly of you. And I'm totally impressed with the pre-chat that we had here before we started recording. But give our audience a breakdown, kind of a summary of forensic historian. What exactly does that mean? And what do you do? And how do you help people decentralize their lives?
Yeah, forensic historian is not a degree they give out in college. And I did go to college, and I learned that my degree wasn't going to pay me anything that I thought I would be doing in the market. So I got into entrepreneurism. I bought a franchise while I was in college. So I invested $5,000 in myself. I went through a training system. Then I went out and knocked on doors and ran businesses until I graduated college. And I took that skill set into the workplace. And I worked as an executive salesperson for technology companies. So I would have big clients as banks and defense contractors and insurance companies and these sort of clients that I would sell to. So I did that until 2003 when I became a federal whistleblower under the Sarbanes-Oxley Act. And then from there, the whistleblowing scuttled my multi-million-dollar career, and I had to learn my way out of it. So I started reading, and that's where the forensic historian piece comes in. I was going through a wake-up process. I was trying to answer questions that weren't given to me in schooling. The terrain I was encountering was not accurate to the map that university gave me.
Yes.
So I had to start reading my way forward, and then I got such a passion and love for doing that I've done it now for the past 16 or 17 years. Consistently in podcasting and filmmaking along the way to share that which I've learned.
Wow. Okay. I love what you're talking about. It's kind of a slow red pilling over time with extraordinary results over the long haul. And now your approach, I mean, I love your website, grandtheftworld.com. You can show that on the screen. Grandtheftworld.com talks about sort of your philosophy, what you do, and introduces people to your podcast and so on. And we do live in a world of not just massive theft, but also, of course, massive deception, even about history. I mean, I've said it many times as well, that the history that we are taught is largely a fabrication, but it's designed to entrap us and to disempower us. So you empower people, and that's what I love about your message, or at least what I'm learning so far.
Yeah, part of what I learned along the way after I retired from working in the corporate world was literacy is a form of slavery until a method of critical thinking is consistently practiced by the reader. In other words, they teach us how to read, but they don't teach us how to think critically.
Yes.
So we're subject to propaganda and a whole lot of psychological warfare. I made this film, or we co-produced this film, and I co-wrote it back in 2013 called State of Mind, The Psychology of Control. So there's mechanisms and methods they've used to control people, and that's interesting, and that's history, and I've focused probably half my work on that. But the other half is the solutions. So knowing that, how do we put critical thinking, creative problem solving, active literacy skills so people can communicate meaningful thoughts in the world and take action with predictable outcomes, as it were? Yeah,
well, this is extraordinary. I've got a couple of immediate questions, but Todd, I want to invite you in. You know, you've known Richard for some time. can you talk about Richard for a second here, even though he's listening? Is that okay? But, like, what's your take on what Richard is teaching the world?
Oh, it's amazing. Richard does serve the hungry minds of the Liberty community. And I was going to ask my first question, Richard, just where is your passion for liberty and freedom grounded? I mean, where did it start? You know, what drives you? Was it your parents? Was it your upbringing? Was it when you got your corporate job and then that didn't end so well? And just help me.
Yeah, I was fortunate. I was fortunate in my upbringing insofar as I had two parents who weren't divorced. I had strong family and grandparents around. I had people of work ethic and integrity around me. I knew what done right looks like, and I knew what shady business looks like as well. So when you juxtapose that to me going into the corporate world, when I see a multi-billion-dollar corporation putting a backdoor in software that Congress has mandated all the all the publicly traded companies had to have, I saw that was a danger to the market itself. Like, that's a national security issue that puts all these companies at risk for money laundering and all sorts of other nefarious activities that they would be held responsible for, but they didn't do. So
was that the whistleblowing?
Yeah, that was the 2003.
Did you expose that?
Yeah, it was the 2003 Sarbanes-Oxley case that I had against EMC Corporation, which is now Dell. They got purchased by Dell a couple years ago. But in order to do that, I had to have certain courage inside and integrity and knowledge of self. Right? It's like those rites of passage I put myself through in college to teach myself how to do sales, marketing, hiring, firing, running my own business, being responsible, being accountable, dealing in integrity with my clients. So I knew that if other people I was working with are taking the money and doing the wrong thing, it's because they don't have the skills I have. I have different options. I can walk a different path. And they had me train people. They had me train my clients on how to blow the whistle under the act that I ironically had to blow the whistle under later. So, yeah.
Wow.
And how long was that process from
3 years.
the time you're like, 3 years?
3 years. But my wake up starts a couple years before that. But that's just when I got more information on it. As like a real quick example, while I'm going through my court case, it's against EMC Corporation. Their law firm is called Skadden, Arps, Marr and Flom. They defended the United States government in Iran-Contra and BCCI. And when they get in trouble, they go get this law firm. So I'm in trial. I'm after the first day. I just testified for 8 hours. I'm at home. I'm reading The House of Morgan by Ron Chernow, a book I have behind me. And on the bottom right-hand side, it says, at this time in the 1950s, J.P. Morgan's white glove WASP law firm of Davis, Polk, and Wardell wouldn't do hostile takeovers and mergers and acquisitions work. They went and got this kind of ruthless firm called Skadden, Arps, Marr, and Flom. So I realized that day that the firm I was up against had a long history and that I needed to do a little bit more research on my opposition. And it was I call it the $1 million education. And I covered it in my podcast called Peace Revolution, that whole 93 episode series.
Well, Mike, the other thing about Richard Grove is he is an entrepreneur and he teaches other people how to be entrepreneurs. And we share the same passion for growing food and food forests.
Yes.
And that's where I personally met Richard, was at Galt's Landing.
Oh, you're kidding me.
No, I went out there. I was invited out there by Jim Gale. And he said that there's Richard Grove's here. And I come from corporate America, so I don't know all of the people out there. And I'm like, yeah, who's Richard Grove? Well, the second I met him, it was like, love at first audible, because he started talking and sharing and everything. And I'm like, man, where have all of these people been all my life? This is what I love about our show, Mike, is it's just that there's all of our guests and the whole network that I think we're creating is just amazing people. But Richard, at that point in time, that was a point, Mike, where I learned that the company I've worked for 25 years made the statement to all of us that they're winding it down. So I was going to be out of a job in a month. And so
Wow.
Richard gave me an amazing, inspirational talk. We brainstormed about the vision, and his wife is like way better looking and smarter than him. She, right, Richard? Come on.
Yes, that's true. That's true. and I chose wisely.
No, she is fantastic. And so it was just like this energy that really got me going. And Mike, I came back to you the next week And you came up with the decentralized directory idea. But the company that's helping me do all of this is Richard's. So it came back. Richard connected me with Joshua Hale. And so everybody out there, if you go to decentralizeddirectory.com, please know that Richard, our guest today, has his thumbprint on it. And it's just not the visual website. There is a whole lot of things that are going on behind it to be able to spread the word of decentralization. Sorry to spend so much time talking about.
No, that's all good. And I wanted to ask anyway, on behalf of our audience. So what kinds of things do you offer, Richard, that our audience can take advantage of? Because Todd, obviously, you've been doing consulting with Todd, which has been very effective, and people love what you're offering, Todd. The people that have done the consulting with you are just blown away. The information you're providing is going to be saving people huge money year after year. But Richard, what can the audience here, learn from you or acquire from you to empower themselves?
Well, first thing is I have a couple different things I do during the week. So if I explain my week, then you'll kind of understand what I do. During the week, I do meetings with clients at our marketing and digital consulting agency. It's called Autonomy Unlimited. And we're going to be helping Jim Gale to set up his community so that he can have his expansion of network and all these other things going on. So I try to help clients in the liberty and freedom community because I know they have a freedom marketing and sales problem. And if we're going to compete on this battlefield, like entrepreneurism depends on the freedom community. And likewise, it's a symbiotic convection current of causality. And too many people have good operations and don't know how to make their offer to the market. So I try to take colleagues of mine who I see have value and say, hey, maybe you can encapsulate that in a digital course, a digital asset, and we can offer that. And you can have a little stream of revenue that's evergreen, right? Helping them get set up on their personal media sites, getting their funnels together, their email list, so they can actually have direct communication with their audience. Those are important parts. So I do that during the week. And then on Friday nights from 9 p.m. till 4 a.m. or 3 a.m., I teach. So I have a global audience for the autonomy course. So it's entrepreneurship, leadership skills, critical thinking, executive skills. It goes on for 12 weeks, twice a year. So on Friday nights, I'm doing a live lecture to hundreds of people, and they're all around the world. And then I do a live Q&A afterwards. And then there's a replay for the people in Australia who were sleeping, and maybe the people in Europe who couldn't make it or something like that. And then Sunday, I do another Q&A for like 3 or 4 hours, and everyone gets their questions answered. And then during the week, they're doing exercises to learn the skills I taught in the course. So they have hands-on community access, they're building skills, and then they graduate through the system, and then they get access to a university that has a whole bunch of other courses. Like I teach sales, but I also have a 15-week course on ethics.
Oh, wow.
Because it's congruent. So I teach sales as problem solving. It's not pushing, persuading, convincing, or conniving. And it's a proper way to do it. And the method I teach, I earned $1 million before I was 30 using this method because I learned it back in the franchise days of my college work. Isn't that crazy that that's the most value I got out of college was that franchise? So if I take it all the way to Sunday night, then from 9 p.m. Eastern until 4 a.m., we broadcast Grand Theft World, which is an analytical broadcast. You and I, Mike, were in the same category at the American Freedom or American Liberty Awards, Best Analytical Broadcast. You won the category, and I was just honored to be nominated. And so that I'm pretty sure that went on a couple weeks ago. I didn't know if that you had known about that. Did you know about that?
I knew about it. I had no idea I won any award.
I'm pretty sure.
Nobody told me that.
It went to Mike Adams. There was a part of their presentation where their system crashed, just like we were rebooting before this. Yeah. And so it wasn't on screen. And so if you watch Rob do, he's like scrolling through. He's like, they say cue cards and that would help, and it doesn't. And they scramble for a couple minutes because it was the category I was waiting to hear who won. Right? Wow. I was just hoping to make the top 4. My buddy Charlie Robinson made the top 4, but I'm pretty sure you won that category.
No way.
And I talked to Frank Kavanaugh too because we helped him with that event. So I'm going to mention that. You should,
okay. Well, I had no idea, but that's nice to know. But look, let me ask you a question based on something that has happened to us that I think the audience will be really intrigued to know about, because you talk about marketing in the freedom and liberty arena, the economy, the pro-freedom, pro-truth economy. So we've also found that a lot of players out there don't know how to do sales or marketing or even partnerships. Because here's what happens, Richard, and Todd, I know you'll appreciate this too. Typically, because we are a major influencer in this space, we have platforms and massive email lists and following, whatever. But people come to us and they just say, look, we want you to send our offer to your entire email list, and then you'll make, $50,000. Or we want you to send all of your people to our page for registration on our list. Can you do that, please? And I'm like, fuck no, what are you talking about? Why are you calling me to ask me to just send my list to you or to send your offer to my list and that's it? I mean, no. I have discernment about what we do. But I'm sorry about the profanity, but that's my attitude towards this. Why do people do that? Do they not understand that it's more than just, send my offer to your list? What is that?
No one's taught them properly. And it's a gaping hole. It's like a vacuum in our whole market. First off, people have a bad taste in their mouth about sales in and of itself because they associate it with used car salespeople with no accountability, right? And then this other part is they don't know any better. So first off, we have weak consumers. So at the very least, if someone goes through my course and they don't want to or need to know about sales, it's just problem solving. So I guarantee you probably need to know about this. But let's say you don't. You would at least be a smarter consumer and be able to inquire when people make offers. And in your case, it's very easy to say no to those offers. People need to do more work when presenting an offer, and it needs to be a quid pro quo. It needs to be a clear relationship, and the other person making the offer usually should take more risk than the person being offered. That's how you can start relationships. And you don't just start them out of anywhere. First off, maybe that what they would do, like in a case like yourself, you're a freedom magnate. You're one of the leading entrepreneurs in the area, right? People look up to you as an icon. So you're tough to approach. But let's say it's like a smaller YouTube person that's getting approached with people with offers. We have to learn how to, first off, that's a healthy sign in the market. Somebody had the balls to make you an offer. It wasn't a good offer. They didn't have the respect in themselves to make you an offer that you can't refuse. Because the way that I have a mentor who wrote a book called Sell Like Crazy. And he also owns the biggest digital marketing agency in Australia. He's very good at what he does. He has awesome methods. And basically the gist is the Godfather offer is you have to make an offer so good that it keeps the business owner up at night if they're giving away too much value. And it has to be a low pressure area. If you're not going to use the 7 deadly sins to market and push people with fear, then you have to lead with inspiration. And by providing extra value and creating that low pressure area of giving instead of just always trying to expect and be entitled and take, like a lot of people do. But to their strategy, you're one of the 99 people who said no. Someone said yes to that poor strategy.
Well, Richard, let me add this and ask for your feedback. But
yeah,
these offers come to me and they're just offering what's in it for me. And that's not the way we operate. I want to know how this benefits my millions of readers and followers and what's in it for them. Right. And I'm telling you, there are so many times I have promoted companies for free. I mean, I can name them. I have actually saved companies that were about to go bankrupt. I promoted them for free because they offered discounts, exclusive discounts to my audience. I mean, I did this with Sogo Snacks. I did this with Hoplite Armor. I did this with Shield Arms. I did it with a bunch of companies. They never paid me a dime, but it was worth it to, in my view, for my audience to have a benefit. And that's what made me willing to promote what they had. Plus, it was a very good solution, right? So how come people don't think about that? Is greed so prevalent in our society that mostly you can just go to somebody and say, oh, you'll make $100,000, you do this, you're like, screw your audience. Does that sell?
I think that greed is right there next to ignorance. And it's a whole bunch of people making assumptions without actually observing things that go on and consciously and presently participating in the process. Because one of the things that I try to think about anytime I'm on with anybody is how is what I'm going to say translate and benefit the audience, right? And so it's always about service to the audience. And then people like you or me, we're the intermediaries of this wisdom getting out to people. So the people who think only of their pocketbook and the other person's pocketbook, they're depending on you to have that same mentality. In fact, they're projecting on you their mentality when they make that offer. The offer says a lot more about them than it does about you.
That's right.
Right. So good for you for being one that says no to such offers and pushing back, because that's the only way those people learn by not having success, that they're going to have to say, why didn't it work with Mike? That was a great opportunity.
If you're an influencer, if you keep burning your own audience, you will not be an influencer for long.
Absolutely right.
It's if you don't honor the people that follow you and respect you, you have no future in this space. But anyway, I've spent enough time talking about that. I mean, thank you for reacting to the challenge that I face as an influencer. Todd, you have any comments about this or insights to add?
No, but I just know, having dealt with you now for several months. Wow, more than that, actually.
Yeah.
Mike, half a year. We were coming up on man. Time flies. But I have always really admired your approach, and I know from us talking to each other and talking about different value propositions, and especially back when we were really knee deep into the crypto and stuff. Man, you are about utility. You're not about speculation. You want to make sure that anything that you speak about, that this is great, that you have tried your best to entirely break it.
That's true.
And you're not doing that for yourself. I know you're doing that for all of the people who admire you, your audience.
Because the currency is integrity.
You got it.
Right.
All
Yes.
economic transactions are based on trust. That J.P. Morgan said that during a 1920s hearing, but that's true, right? And so if you don't have integrity and a definition for it, integrity is doing what you said you'd do when you said you would do it, or updating the person and renegotiating that contract. But you can't just let things go. Like, this is just a part of prerequisites to show up, and then doing these things helps you build excellence through your actions consistently, and that's what builds trust and relationships with people. It's integrity measured over time.
There you go.
These are basic concepts I was taught in the franchise it was a student painters franchise. So it wasn't like something fancy for rich kids. This is like sweating and painting houses all summer, but learning these essentials. And I had a good mentor because he was a former vice president of sales for Xerox North America. And he couldn't find qualified salespeople. So he took it as an entrepreneur to create a system to create thousands of people who he had taught in an ethical, moral, and an integrity-based way of doing business.
Wow.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Todd.
I was just intrigued about that. I've been in sales all my life. Can you give any kind of an overview, of elevator pitch, if you will, of what that kind of training, what people would receive in that kind of training? Some tips?
Yeah. I mean, basically, I offer very similar training, but it has 20 more years experience added into it. And so the basics of how to do sales, that would be weeks like 7 and 8. But in the course for individuals, it's a whole curriculum. So first couple of weeks, we're breaking down ideas that aren't true. And we're going to kind of defrag your mentality. And we're going to ask you to put down beliefs that don't serve you for the term of the course. Just if you have a belief, it doesn't serve you, why don't you just put it down for a couple of weeks to check out these methods. Then in weeks 4, 5, 6, 7, we're preparing people to go forward and actually learn critical thinking, learn how to learn anything, learn how to get things done, like some basic task doing skills. And then we teach the sales, the marketing, the entrepreneurism in the last 6 weeks of the course. So there's a lot to it. But the only thing that we ask people to do is, before you can't just buy the course. We have people go through an obstacle course, and they take the obstacle course. It takes a couple hours, and it tests their attention span. Because if you can't finish this obstacle course in a week, you don't stand a chance getting through this course. And I don't want your money. I don't need your money. I only want, because what's awesome on the other side of the paywall is, here's this community of people who made it through the obstacle course. They're serious about themselves. They're serious about leveling up in life. And because I have lifetime enrollment, I've got students that have gone through the course 9 times and graduated so far, and they just keep getting better each time through because they're different each time through.
Wow.
So I teach the same methods. They're evergreen methods. It's very simple. It's like the hardest method throughout the course is 3 steps. It's not rocket science. I can teach it to anybody, and I have taught it to almost 1,000 people in the last 4 years.
Can I borrow the obstacle course to apply to potential applicants who want to work for us? Because there's a lack of attention span, across the population.
Yes, and producing people who have a culture of excellence plus these skill sets is huge. And that's why everyone who works at the digital marketing company, Autonomy Unlimited, they all had to graduate Autonomy, the course, first. So they had to invest in themselves, get the skills, get known among their peers, and then they get invited, some of them, to go over and freelance.
Love it.
So it's a good convection current.
All right. So for people watching this, and also on the theme of decentralization, there are many, many people who are tired of working for a corporation or a school or a government entity or what have you. They would love to do. Yeah. And the vaccine mandates are coming back in hospitals now. That news broke yesterday. So, but many people don't have either the courage or the knowledge or, just the faith in themselves to be successful entrepreneurs. And it's granted, it can feel very, very risky, especially if you're a parent. You've got children depending on you, and your appetite for risk is not what it was when you were 17, probably. But it sounds like what your course can help people do is, put one foot in and at least find out how easy it is to actually gather the skills and the mindset to be a successful entrepreneur. Is that a fair description, you think, of part of what you offer?
And then I made it more generous than that. So I know where people are at. If they're like parenting and they've got softball or t-ball or baseball, or they've got these activities going on, they're going to say as an excuse that they can't participate, well, I can't make the meetings or I can't do this or that. That's why I make the course evergreen, that you have a lifetime access. So if you buy it, I've had people who bought it and then they show up 2 years later and then they participate.
No kidding.
And I have people who buy it and they just put in 10% of the effort this season, then they'll come back next season because then they know how to take it more seriously and they've made time in their schedule, because this helps you make more time in your schedule. We all have the same 168 hours a week. It's how we learn how to leverage ourselves and systematize and delegate and learn new methods, right? So I made it so that a single mom with 3 kids and 2 or 3 jobs could still go through this course and level up. And we've had someone in that specific situation who has tested it for us, like in season 2. So it's there for when people need it. And I'm not always going to be doing it live. So it's like a rare opportunity twice a year. It's less than 100 people that we allow into the course. So it stays intimate and I can remember everyone's names, and we have long talks on Sundays and answer questions. So I really try to I've taken a lot of high price courses from like Grant Cardone or Dan Locke or all this stuff, because I've tried to like keep brushed up on my sales skills over the years, but I don't use any of their tactics, techniques, closing tech. It's just good for like the practice and the role plays and stuff, right? Learning how to do that for yourself, you also find out what you don't like about other people's courses. Oh, there's an upsell to make this work. I hate that I don't have that. It's like one price to get in and that's it. It's like,
what is the price, Richard, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, well, the price is disclosed in the middle of the obstacle course because we give everyone complete transparency before they talk to an enrollment consultant. And sometimes the enrollment consultant doesn't issue an offer. So just because you go through the course, obstacle course, and do the call doesn't mean you get an offer. They might say what you need to do is X, Y, Z and get yourself straightened out and come back next year, right? Some people need that.
Wow, that's fascinating. So before you give the price,
it's less than a semester of community college.
But I love the terminology that you're using here, the obstacle course. I mean, I think that's perfect. And then forensic historian, this phrase, and can you speak more about that too? Because I'm not sure how that fits into what you're talking about here with the courses.
Well, I could fit that in. I got to change my lower third to talk about forensic historian though. All right. So I worked in the World Trade Centers. I worked on the 96th floor. I had a client there called Marsha McLennan. They're the world's biggest insurance brokerage. We had a year-long multi-million-dollar deal there. I had many contractors on site. And so follow that story through. I was there on the morning of 9/11. I was not in the buildings, and I left after the events had kicked off, and I didn't see some things that other people think they saw, right? So I have experiences from that day. That led me into reading and asking questions. And in the midst of like going through my whistleblowing, I started to amalgamate and accumulate enough books. Like for instance, by 2004, I had learned about the book Tragedy and Hope, The History of the World in Our Time by Carroll Quigley. He was a Georgetown professor. He had a whistleblower named Alfred Zimmern that came to him in 1948, and he wrote this book, but it was published posthumously in 1981. So he learns this story in 1948. He takes 20 years to write the book Tragedy and Hope. And then only after he died did the real story with all the details come out. So this is something that I had trouble with because I went and got a college education, and if there was a Rothschild banking family, they would have told me about it, and I worked on Wall Street and they would have told me about this. So I was really incredulous 50 pages into Tragedy and Hope. Like he's saying there's a bank for international settlements, and Montague Norman and Helmar Schacht, Hitler's banker from Brooklyn, they're all working together. I'm like, what's going on? So that I was incredulous. So then I went and found Anthony Sutton's books, and I started reading about how the American robber barons and capitalists had funded the communist revolutions and these sort of things, right? So then I became interested enough that I started podcasting in 2006. My first podcast was called 9/11 Synchronicity, and it went on for 3 years, and it documents all the stuff inconvenient to the narrative, and it puts it in an entertaining, evergreen format that people could listen to today and get what happened 20 years ago.
Wow.
And then from there, I created the Peace Revolution podcast for 10 years. And this was a whole treasure trove of here's evidence on the United Nations, here's evidence on American history and how we developed, here's evidence on how they subverted the school system, here's evidence on the British elephant in the American living room. And the gist of what Tragedy and Hope and Anthony Sutton and these other people are telling you is that the British Empire, which had existed for hundreds of years, it lost in 1814 and decided not to come back militarily. They decided to take over the political statecraft and the economics of America. They helped to instrument the Civil War, and after that, they started to create America in its image. And it took over 100 years for them to tear it down to the point where we find it today. So that sounds like a downer of a story, and we're at the end of a bad story. But realizing this now empowers people to see what's going on, inform themselves about the past, so if you know what you're doing in the past and where you're at now, you can project the future. They've been projecting their future on us as long as we were unwitting to this. And now that people wake up and they start to realize what's happened, what they can do, and where they should go in the light of freedom. Let's grow in the light direction. Let's get more food forest abundance. Let's get some solar. Let's get some chickens. And let's get to know our neighbors and actually have real relationships. So if the electricity turns off. So it's a balancing act between knowing the forensic history. That's part of the problem, and I need to know how to explain it to the nth degree with all the evidence artifacts to take away their doubts. So now they could focus on the solution of let's get our skills on, let's level up in life, let's become leaders to ourselves and in our families and in our communities, and let's start leveraging all this beautiful freedom and opportunity that we have to have skills, to build our skills, to make better offers to the market. And that's going to change the world sooner than later because it starts with us, and we can't put it outside of ourselves. Otherwise, we're weak victims that never get anything solved.
You know, that's beautiful. And Todd, you know who we've got to introduce Richard to is Kevin McGarry.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'm telling you, Kevin McGarry from Every Black Life Matters. It's called everyblm.com. We had him on as a guest, and it's a very similar message about building from the grassroots through our communities, based on a meritocracy, by the way.
Yes.
Not based on skin color, not based on race or anything else. It's based on meritocracy. You gain the knowledge, you put in the work, and you reap the rewards, and then you reinvest those rewards in your community to have stronger communities, stronger families, stronger values. And anyway, I just had to point that out. But a comment on what you just said there, Richard. You know, those who have faked history this entire time, they are also faking history in real time as it's rolling out, right? Yeah. So they're constantly building a new fake narrative, even surrounding COVID, for example, or saying, oh, Russia attacked Ukraine and Russia was unprovoked. I mean, come on. That's a completely fake narrative. But they're constantly faking everything to the point where I've said that I think people are living in a giant Truman Show, right? Just illusion. What would your take on that be, Richard?
Well, the first thing that came to mind when you started bringing it up is this guy, Karl Rove, who had a quote, "We're an empire now." And I don't need to read it to you, but it exists out there. And basically what he said, this is the Ron Suskind, who's a famous journalist reporter for the establishment. He says to Suskind, he said, "We're an empire now. And while you're out there studying, you know," he's like, we're an empire now. We make reality. And while you're out there studying it judiciously, as you will, we are out there making new realities, and so on and so forth. So he's just basically saying, once they took control of history, this is like Hegel's idea of like the end of history and being able to manufacture history, right? Just like they taught us how to manufacture consent, right? That was a Chomsky
Richard,
book back in the day.
Sorry to interrupt, but was it Rove or was it Rumsfeld who said that we are history's actors?
Oh, I think that was Rumsfeld.
I think it was Rumsfeld too. I'm not certain of that, but
he's got the known unknowns.
Yeah, that's true.
The Errol Morris,
which actually made more sense. But Karl Rove his nickname is the Architect.
I thought it was Turd Blossom.
Well, yeah, but he is. And by the way, Karl Rove is also behind the current staged impeachment attempt of Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton.
Oh,
yes.
That makes sense.
That impeachment has completely fallen apart because all the accusations have now come out in the trial as being completely fabricated. Just utterly, there's no evidence. None of them are true. But they created, through the architect, they created the illusion of these things. And that's the way they've always operated, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. And they've operated for like back in the 70s, there was a group called Team B, and it was like Wolfowitz, Rumsfeld. It wasn't quite Rove yet, but there was a group of actors and they wanted to do certain things and they learned they couldn't, but then they constructed an artificial situation in the future where they could precipitate those actions with the support of nice allies that might have participated in those actions. And the fallout from all that turned into the Patriot Act and the restriction of American rights and liberties. And we still, to this day, we got to take off our shoes at the airport. Why? Because Richard Reed, the shoe bomber, right? No, Richard Reed used C4. You don't have to light that on fire. Like this whole thing about not, all their stories are cockamamie.
Yes.
At this point.
So
and
true.
Here's my bigger point. They don't construct these stories that Karl Rove is talking about. When they manufacture reality, they don't make it to fool us. They don't make it to fool critical thinkers. They give it as an excuse so people can adopt a form of cowardice and refuse to use their critical thinking. That's the audience they're playing to.
Right.
Like if you watch CNN or MSNBC or these channels, they gaslight their own audiences. They're not fooling us. Yeah. We see through this. I've seen the EcoHealth and the DARPA documents and all the funding and all that stuff for 3 years now. They're just now starting to recognize these things in the press. We've known all along. They cooked up the recent situation on purpose to precipitate events, to manufacture reality.
Yep.
I like
on
that,
their
Richard.
timescale. Yeah.
Do you subscribe to the NPC theory, non-playing character theory? Because what you just said is that they aren't gaslighting us, who I think are the playing characters, but the NPCs out there, which I think is like 90% of the people personally. But those are the people I assess just do not have the capacity to critically think at all. Richard, what do you have to say about that?
I would say it's a gray neutral area of the NPC. I'm not using it as a pejorative. I would see these as people who have yet the opportunity to start thinking. They have yet to have a splinter in their mind, as Morpheus said, to be like, whoa, what happened to World Trade Center 7? Gee, that's really weird. You know what I'm saying? It's those little things that get people start to questioning. And once we take back our power of inquiry, that incredulity, that curiosity, that we don't know everything, the whole world opens up. But as long as I thought, well, college would have taught me this, and if not, it's conspiracy theory. That's how they preserve that whole group. They give them an excuse not to think. It's cowardly not to think in this situation, but here's the excuse. I'm just going to call you a conspiracy theorist because I can't deal with looking at your facts about how the CIA made a memo called 1035-960 concerning criticism of the Warren Commission report about Edward J. Epstein's book Inquest. So there's a whole memo about how they created conspiracy theory as a pejorative. People out there today, they do the CIA's work without getting a paycheck, and I think they could do better. That's my inspiration to them to start thinking.
Well, I hope you're right, but I just have so many people in my life, and I'm going to say my family. I'm like the only freedom-loving conspirator around in my family. You know, that they would call me that. But so they just get their downloads off of CNN and MSNBC. So I don't have the faith you do that these people are going to start critically thinking.
If they know there's something going on and they choose not to, if they choose to be willingly ignorant, that's their choice. We play with the people who
make that choice every day.
Well, and I was fortunate to grow up in a household that never taught me that JFK was shot by a lone gunman called Lee Harvey Oswald. My dad never taught me that. He said you should actually look at that situation because there's some stuff there. So, you know, he's not a conspiracy guy. He was just a guy wise enough to know that that it doesn't make sense. And if you dig into it, it just doesn't make sense a whole lot more. And all the questions that come up, throughout it, you can't answer how did Oswald do that? Just like 9/11, how did the guys with the box cutters have the 17 drills that went on and have Tripod 2 in New York with the emergency management the night before? There's things that don't fit in the official story, and that's what wakes people up. Introduction to those
Todd,
new facts.
We have an NPC right here in the studio.
Well dressed.
DTV Bob here, whatever, or DTV man. Also, by the way, his hands are decentralized. Did you notice that his hands are not attached to any central control system? But anyway, yeah, he's an NPC. He might believe the vaccine narrative. In fact,
doesn't have an arm to get jabbed though. So
he looks like an asymptomatic silent assassin to me.
No, we could try to jab him. I don't know. I mean, he's made out of plastic, but. you know, I mean, think about it, like Kathy Hochul, the Democrat governor of New York. She comes out and says, hey, everybody, sorry if you took all these previous vaccines and boosters, they no longer work. And what you need now is this new one, this whole new thing that we have for you, and it's going to work. Trust us. And it's like, is it an IQ test?
It is. Well, I'm having that shirt made at this point in time. Wearing and then a picture of a mask is an IQ test.
Oh, we got to put a mask on this NPC. I forgot about that.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Oh, you need a
masking is required.
Mask cozy that says decentralized.
Yeah, right. That's what we need. Yeah. Let's talk to Bill Prince. See if they'll send us a mask.
Because he's our mascot. At least cut out the mask so that he's wearing it, to comply, but he's breathing.
Otherwise, he could get brain damage.
Let's get him like the Jason mask from the horror movies or something. But
just put a jock strap on him.
No, we should have a T-shirt with a message that says, "If you don't watch this show, I am smarter than you." And have it right there. He can wear that.
Oh, that's perfect. Perfect. Red Pill Prince. Did you get that? Huh?
But the point is, I mean, we're all having fun with this concept. But Richard, I appreciate the fact that you are able to take some people who maybe haven't been red pilled and then help them begin this journey of asking questions like, oh, about these lockdowns. Well, how come the virus is dangerous if I go to church, but the virus suddenly is not dangerous if I go to Walmart? Because Walmarts were open. Like, doesn't make sense. If people can start asking questions, it's almost the Socratic method here. Ask questions, the knowledge will emerge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the gist of what I try to do is like there's a workflow to it. So if I'm doing a podcast on Sunday night, most people catch the replay because very few people stay up all night, right? And that gives them the week's news, but it's defragmented and it has a whole bunch of history and artifacts. So we actually have knowledge coming out of that session. And now they can drip that knowledge to their friends, family, coworkers, and they sound intelligent. They sound highly trustworthy because they have the sources. I've always, back in 2004, 2005, I'm watching InfoWars and I'm like, I wish Alex, when he says we got the documents, they would be posting the links. So in everything I've posted since 2006, I've had all the documents. I've always had the links. I've prided myself on having all the references so my audience can be more intelligent when they're talking about these things because they are far out of what they've taught us.
Richard, when we were together, you shared a little bit about your history blueprint. Can you tell the audience about the history blueprint?
Long time ago, when I started looking into these things, I discovered they were complex. And so I started using software to track some of these, ideas. So if I wanted to study the topic of psychological warfare, I didn't start with this complexity. I started learning about maybe, Lord Northcliffe, this press magnate in Britain who helped to bring about world wars, and the people that worked for him that had a whole lot of questions about, because in 1917, Texas Congressman Oscar Callaway said that the major robber barons and railroad owners had bought up the nation's newspapers so they could control what the population thought. And they found that it was necessary to only buy 31 of the newspapers because they influence all the other newspapers. And then at those 31 newspapers, they installed an editor which would do the bidding of these people that bought this, and they paid for it as a subscription month by month. So they're just getting paid off by the people who own the resources to tell us what to think about what they're doing with all the taxpayer dollars that they get from our, and resources they get from us. So that was how it went in 1917. Now it's just more complicated technology, but it's still the same thing. And the other thing that I got into early that I would put in the history blueprint, I would put something in here like, let's type in Wilson, and I'll go to Woodrow Wilson here. There's Charles Wilson, Edwin. There's a lot of Wilsons. I'm going to have to type Thomas Woodrow Wilson. There he is. So I've got 55,000 connections in here with 10,000 major thoughts. So a major thought will be
that is awesome.
And it's been since 2008. So it's a continual ontology of everything I've learned for the past.
How do people access it?
Well, for friends, I right click, and I send you a link. But on grandtheftworld.com, you can get the brain model that we use in every show.
Okay.
So as I'm going through and I learn about Wilson, I learn, there's these quotes that he made, and are these true quotes? And so you have to leave the internet modeling of things exist, and you have to go to the real world, and you have to get the first edition of his book. So if you read 1911, The New Freedom by Woodrow Wilson, there's a quote attributed to him about the people who have silent influence behind the scenes. And people say it's a debunked quote because it's not in the book. And I always say, well, let me get the book and see. And what you see is you can't fit it into a quote because it's 8 pages. And in those 8 pages, he goes on. He says there exists a group of people that have such control over our society that all these people won't speak above their breath when they speak in condemnation of it. And he goes on. It's like a whole speech, because the New Freedom book it's a book of his campaign speeches. So he did a whole campaign speech on this secret group that's a conspiracy that has influence at the highest levels of this country. And this is before they got the Federal Reserve Act approved, but it's the same people that they're talking about. So it's really interesting to watch it and read it yourself, rather than, I was always incredulous when I was trying to figure this out back in 2004, 2003. I'm reading stuff on the internet and it could be like, you don't know if it's true or false. So that's why I started getting the books. And once I started getting the books and you start finding, I've got 100 or 200 books on how MI6 created CIA and the whole heritage of all these.
You must have a hell of a library.
I do. I've got a couple thousand books. This studio is a library. There's one more library downstairs, and then there's one upstairs in my office. There's a whole bunch because I have John Taylor Gatto's whole library, and I have that in storage until we get a new place that has more storage.
That's so amazing.
But now with the extreme censorship, of course, is going on now. So you have all these globalist efforts to label all truth as disinformation, and then to only allow their misinformation to be broadcast as truth, right? So the World Health Organization.
The fact that they censor means they're weak and intellectually bankrupt. And then when they go to like regulate and mandate, it just means like their next step is use their monopoly of violence. That's their next step. They're not using reason and logic in any of these types of things. So
Richard,
the whole COVID. Oh, go ahead.
Fast forward 10 years. What's the United States going to look like, in your opinion, Richard? What do you got?
Grand Theft Auto would be my.
If we go with Klaus's plan and we eat the bugs, I got some crickets here. If you guys want some bacon and cheese crickets, because Klaus says eat the bugs, right? So if we eat the bugs and we go with 2030's plan where you'll own nothing and like it, there won't be a United States that's a viable country. It'll be like a fourth world country, because that's been a plan that they've been in action for like almost 100 years at this point, to build up China, to build up Russia, to have that communist Soviet project used as a vice. And at the same time, so it's a brilliant strategy. You can't underestimate these people intellectually, because here's the brilliant strategy. Communism inside, let's say, China or Soviet Union, huge reappropriation of wealth, and all these robber barons go in and do mining, and they create the infrastructure for it to happen on a mass scale where Mao or Stalin can kill tens of millions of people. Like Harriman and the robber barons from here had to go put robber baron stuff over there too first. So they set up the infrastructure, then they collapse it, then they have it as a power vice against America, right? So they have a globalist strategy that's been in process, and they're still trying to bring it to fruition today. And they've had to weaken America substantially over the past 100 years, generation by generation, attacking the least among us, the youngest among us, through the schooling and giving people not an education, not teaching us to think, not teaching us to learn, but how to be obedient cogs in their machine. So,
but Richard, that's a group that's playing the long ball. You're talking centuries. So my question to you,
what's it going to be in the next?
I believe it's spiritual warfare, and it goes back eons. And I just think it's the demonic presence that infiltrates these families, or who do you think are
you need to get an exorcist for that. So the people at the top, it's not that it's demons, but they get a lot of other people to do things that they normally wouldn't do, because these people are able to print money out of thin air. And they don't want money. They want power and control in exchange for their money. And they give it to Renfields. And that's the problem. There's a group of people out there, let's call them stupid. This is a technical term from 1976. There's a study. It's called The Evil of Stupidity, I believe. And what it shows is that people who take actions that don't benefit themselves and hurt other people are technically stupid. And the stupidity is the real evil on this planet. There are some bandits in that quadrant, because he draws out the 4 quadrants. Intellectual or intelligence up here, and the stupid people are down here. And over here are bandits. And they know how to do stuff and take away from other people for their own benefit, but they don't know how to give to others. Bandits are known. They're predictable. Like Soros is going to be Soros, right? But your neighbor who turns you in for having a barbecue with your friends because you guys weren't masked, and the police come, and then someone gets shot because there's hubbub. That's evil, stupid stuff going on. And I think that also needs to be included into the equation. And I provide solutions for all those things if people want to change how they think or start to think. They think assuming is having thoughts. That's not. They think having a thought is thinking. No, it's not. Thinking is asking a question to identify a substantial a substantial outcome or answer that's based on something verifiable. That's what thinking is. It's a desired outcome that comes from processing. Most people were never taught how to do it.
Yeah, that's extraordinary. And yet we live in a society where stupid people vote and they outvote those who are able to think. And it's kind of, it's hard to understand how we're going to turn this around without some kind of collapse scenario. But
got to educate people. That's the answer.
Yeah. I agree. It's just how much time do we have left and how many people can we reach? I mean, we're doing the best we can, all of us.
We're going to reach millions, not billions, right? The people we're reaching, they're moving off grid. They're getting their exit and build on. They're getting their food forest on. They're setting up their private membership associations. They're learning how to use gold backs and getting their own currencies together. They're learning agorism and bartering and all these things.
Yep.
That's why I like to say if the electricity goes out and they stop delivering stuff to your town, all the things I teach in autonomy, they pretty much still work for you. These are skills that live between your ears. They don't get confiscated at borders. They don't get taxed, right? These are awesome things to build to your intellectual assets and your repertoire, what you're bringing to life every day.
Well said. Well said. Okay, we're going to have to wrap it up there in the interest of time today. I know we've only scratched the surface, but I want to remind the audience, grandtheftworld.com is one of your sites. And what's the other one? Getautonomy.info?
Getautonomy.info. And then you click for individuals and then complete the obstacle course. We start at the end of this month in September for season 10. And you want to be among that cool group of 100 people who are getting their skills on and learning and outgrowing their status quo before 2024.
Okay, outstanding. Well, Richard, this has been incredibly fascinating and inspiring as well. And I definitely want to keep in touch and see what else we can do together down the road. In the meantime, thank you for joining us today. And this has been extraordinary.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Todd. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Richard.
Peace.
Yep. Thank you, Richard. Okay. Take care.
Cheers.
Stay in touch. Join the official discussion channel for this show on Telegram at t.me/decentralizedtv, where you can ask questions or offer suggestions of who we should interview next. Also be sure to subscribe to the email newsletter on decentralized.tv, where you'll be alerted about 1 day in advance of each new upcoming episode, before it gets published. On decentralized.tv, you'll also find links to our video channels and social media channels across all platforms, including Brighteon, Rumble, BitChute, Twitter, Truth Social, and more. Check it all out at decentralized.tv. All right, welcome everybody. This is the after party, the commentary after the interview with Richard Grove. It's actually been a few days because of scheduling. So if you're wondering why my hair is suddenly shorter, it's been a couple of days. But Todd, what do you think? I mean, obviously great interview, very valuable knowledge for people to have. What are your comments?
Well, Richard Grove, man, when I was with him at Galt's Landing, he made a comment that I'll never forget. Is he's all about teaching excellence without excuses. And I thought that was just so great. And you could just hear it when we were interviewing him, that he just has, and I say this a lot just because our guests deserve it, but I love people with unconscious competence. You know, he just has this stream of consciousness, and his grasp of history is just phenomenal. You know, I'm still working on, was it, which one was it, Lincoln or Washington, who cut down that cherry tree?
Well, he's got this mind map of, you know, all the knowledge he's put together over all these years, which is kind of just a visual representation of what we have in our minds, you know, in our knowledge base. But that's pretty impressive. And he can go back and check on that at any time. And I love the fact that he's also kind of red pilling people at the same time that he's teaching them practical skills.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
I think this is going to be critical because, I mean, look at how many corporations are downsizing.
Right.
People getting laid off, people getting fired. There are strikes. There's also, well, the supply chain is breaking down, and people are not going to have the same corporate jobs that they used to be able to rely on. So
No.
this is becoming sort of, personal financial survival and preparedness, really, these skills.
Yeah, it really is. But it's a good thing that, all of our incomes are going up and that we aren't experiencing any inflation
Right.
at the stores, Mike.
Yeah.
No, this is a real critical point in time to where I think, they they say when God closes a door, he usually leaves a window cracked. So go look for the cracked window. And so I think what Richard Grove offers, especially, the very limited in acceptance. What is it? 100 people for his autonomy training course, Mike. I would really recommend people, if you have an entrepreneurial bent at all, I would love to learn under his tutelage, starting from scratch.
Well, this is, you and I might take it for granted, Todd, because,
yeah,
I've been doing my own thing for decades.
right.
But the skills of entrepreneurship are not actually that widely known or practiced across the population.
They aren't. And it's a different muscle memory, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And what accompanies it usually is risk, it's
Yes.
that risk reward thing. But there is that period of risk that to where you enter in the land of fear, right? I think fear causes more people to take an about face on entrepreneurialism. Don't you, Mike? Because it's there's no guarantees, right?
Well, right. And the other thing, and this is absolutely true, is that a person can kind of hide in a large organization.
Yes.
They can hide their failures, or if they have incompetence, they can kind of hide that. They're kind of covered by everybody else or the success of the organization itself. When you are an entrepreneur, you answer for everything: your strengths, your weaknesses, your failures, and your successes.
Yes.
And
That's
that's
right.
pretty darn scary for a lot of people. It's not averaged out across a group.
No, that's true. And the buck stops with you, right? I mean, you are accountable. And I guess that's kind of in my little world, I just installed the food forest this last week, and I look out at this amazing piece of art that they planted, Mike, and it just hit me because today they left, and it hit me that guess what? Tomorrow morning I'm going to wake up. And that's my responsibility, Mike. So it's kind of like a weird kind of entrepreneurialism,
True.
Things don't get watered, the plants don't get fed. And that sounds silly about feeding plants, but I learned a lot this week that there is, these, you cut down certain branches and you spread the leaves and you do it strategically and all of that, to be able to create the really, really good soil long term. And that's on me.
Yeah.
But man, it's entrepreneurialism is very rewarding, though.
Well, absolutely. And I love what you're doing with the food forest. And I also think that with what's coming, the very hard times that are coming,
yes,
financial collapse, the accelerating collapse of the value of the dollar, people are going to need to barter more.
right.
And people are going to need to buy and sell. And sometimes you might be producing something like out of your food forest, right? I mean,
Yes.
there
Yeah.
could be a day where you have like a neighborhood flea market type of thing, and you're there with, whatever food is out of your food forest, and you're willing to trade with people.
That's right.
For the things that you need.
And you know what? I mean, I didn't realize, Mike, how abundant my food forest is going to be. I mean, literally, you fast forward 3 years, and it's going to be producing so much fruit, avocados, just so many different kinds of delicious food. They said your problem is going to be picking it all.
Yes.
And that got me thinking immediately. I'm like, but that's not a problem, because I'm going to seek out others like me, and I'm going to find somebody who I can make a deal with. I can say, you come into my food forest, you harvest, you take it to a local farmer's market, you sell it. I provide all the food, you provide the labor, and we split it.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to be in business in 2-3 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why not?
And plus you have that resilience that is going to make you, able to survive whatever food scarcity is coming, or
That's right.
or food inflation.
Yes.
And by the way, this is a true story, but last night, I've got these areas where chickens lay eggs, and it's actually little like chicken hutches that are on top of some barrels, and the chickens kind of fly up there and they lay eggs. Nice. And they take turns. So you can end up with 5 or 6 eggs in one of these hutches in one day.
Oh, cool.
And last night I look in and there's a giant rat snake that's coiled around the 6 eggs. And the rat snake is like, these are mine. And, I've dealt with rat snakes a lot. But so I grab my snake grabber, which I have right there,
Yep.
and I grab the snake and I pull him out, and of course, he doesn't want to go out, and he tries to hold on, and I'm trying not to have the eggs break.
Oh, wow, right.
While I'm pulling him out of there.
You don't need them scrambled just yet.
No, exactly. And by the way, sometimes when I find a snake and I grab it, it's got an egg in its mouth that it's already kind of half digested, and then the snake goes into panic mode, and it just spits up the egg yolk out of its mouth in order to try to survive whatever it thinks is happening. I don't kill these snakes. Right now I'm just tossing them a ways away just so I can get the eggs. But anyway, I was thinking to myself, for somebody totally new to doing their own food, the idea of capturing snakes that are trying to get your eggs is pretty terrifying for people.
Right. Yeah.
And that's why it's important to do this now, so that, when it comes to food or your own business or your own finance or whatever the case may be, get into that skill set now so that it's no big deal. It's like, right. Another snake, I got the snake grabber. This thing it's not even venomous. It's fine. Just move it, and then I can get the eggs, and getting into all these things, it's important to do it now before a crisis comes, so that you don't freak out in the middle of a crisis.
Right. Well, one thing that this has taught me, and I'm really happy about this, is I went through the process with the HOA. Yeah. And the law was actually on my side. It's on our side. And you talk about overreach. These HOAs really are in the land of overreach. And so at least here in Florida, there are great laws. And so I feel really good about the fact that I did get it approved without stipulations of just, 2 fruit trees on my whole property. Whoa, that's going to be abundant. We have basically a template for that, Mike. So if anybody out there, at least in Florida, but even in other states, because other states, they're protected too. And I think you would just use the same language, but just know that at foodforestabundance.com, we can help you. And I say we because I now feel part of their team, because I installed a food forest in my backyard. And Mike, I will tell you, if I could measure the amount of energy their whole team put for the entire week of just all of the sod removal and moving it, and then putting literally probably 1.5 foot of mulch on top of it, wheelbarrow by wheelbarrow, and then all of the plantings and everything, Mike. I mean, it is just so amazing. It is so amazing. And so I look at them and I see them behave like a team, a well-oiled machine. And that's where Richard Grove and I first met, at Galt's Landing, where Jim Gale was hosting Richard and his wife for the weekend. And so it just all feels like it kind of comes together. And man, I don't know. I'm babbling, Mike, just because you can tell I have a lot of sun.
Yeah, you got some sun. But we really support entrepreneurism here at the show. And in fact, yes. I want to show our guy here. I'm calling him DTV Man.
I love that.
And this is our first this is the introduction of DTV Man. Here he is. So to help promote redpillprints.com, which is, they're an entrepreneurial family that makes these amazing shirts and mugs and hats and everything. And as our viewers know, we don't earn anything. They don't pay us anything, but we're just helping to support them. So I decided, I've had so much trouble showing these shirts and hats before, as you know, they've just been flat on the table. So I went out and bought this mannequin, which actually for the gender sensitive people out there, the word mannequin does contain man, and I'm not going to change that. It's not a womanican. It's not an it-akin. It's a man-akin, and it's like a fit man, actually. And also a white man, if you notice. So we actually have a white man, which apparently is not even allowed in society these days. But here he is demonstrating, wearing the shirts and everything. Yeah. So I didn't realize how big this thing was going to be when I ordered it online. But it's like, it's hard to get him in the frame. We had to zoom out on the cameras, and his hands don't even fit. You notice we had to cut off his hands. So he's got decentralized hands, you see. His hands are somewhere else.
Decentralized torso.
Yeah. But anyway, that's the shirt from redpillprints.com. And there's other designs. And if you go to redpillprints.com/DTV, you can find all this gear, the coffee mugs and the hats and whatever. And they accept
and you know
crypto.
what, Mike? I'm just going to put it out there.
What?
I have some crypto. I want somebody to order one of these shirts, and then in our decentralized chat in Telegram, if you take a picture of you sporting something that you bought from Red Pill Prints, I will, and it's going to be for the top 3 that do that. I'll put a cap on it, but I will reimburse you in crypto for any investment that you made in these shirts to be able to sport it, wear it around. Yeah.
Wow, that's a big deal.
I will do that.
All right, so let me get this straight. The rule is they have to have a photo of themselves wearing the thing.
Yes.
Okay.
They have to place the order.
Okay.
And they have to let me know that you placed the order.
Okay.
You can find me on Telegram. And when you get it, you take a picture, you post it in Telegram.
Yeah.
And then you and I will have a different conversation, a DM where I will get your crypto address, and I'll send you some crypto that's the value of what you ordered.
Wow.
For
that's
3 people.
That's amazing. Okay. So, but you got to make sure nobody does like a little Photoshop trick.
That's right.
Right. To try to,
well,
so
we'll find out. We'll find out because
you're talking to the company.
The owners.
Yeah.
We know the owners, Mike.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right.
So she will have seen this by the time somebody takes me up on this.
So the first 3
let's
people.
get a little swag around. I want to see some DTV swag, everyone.
Okay. That's awesome. All right. Well, and also, by the way, Red Pill Prince sent me a hoodie now.
Yes.
And I thought we could dress him up as Senator Fetterman.
Oh, good.
Notice that they changed the U.S. Senate dress code so that you can wear hoodies and shorts now. This is like everybody looks like a total slob in the United States Senate because that's what happens when empires collapse. So now we could dress him up as a senator with no shorts and a hoodie.
Great.
We could call him the Fetter Man, which also contains the word man. And also this one is incoherent and doesn't speak well, just like Senator Fetterman. So it's a perfect fit.
Does kind of have that continuous dumb kind of stare without eyes.
Yeah, actually, come to think of it, it's kind of a Joe Biden vibe going on right there.
Yes.
Like if he stumbled around a little bit, like, where am I? Where am I? I'm going to trip over the cords.
That is Joe Biden.
It's totally Joe Biden.
that look. Oh, wow.
Yeah, that stare into oblivion. Like, what am I doing here?
Meanwhile, Richard Grove was great.
Yeah, sorry, we get off topic too easily here.
And I really enjoyed the interview with him. And gosh, it's like I have so many questions still.
Yeah, well, we're just going to have to encourage people to go to his website, grandtheftworld.com. decentralizeddirectory.com. That's it. And you can find all his stuff there. Very interesting stuff. And also, tell us about Decentralized Directory. How's that going, Todd? Because you've had quite a few people contact you about that, and you've been able to do consulting with quite a few people. So go ahead and plug that before we wrap this up.
Sure. I encourage everyone to go to the website, decentralizeddirectory.com. And there's not two D's in the middle. So it's not decentralized directory. It's just decentralizeddirectory.com, just because I don't want anyone to get frustrated. And just go down there and watch the 2-minute introduction video. I think that'll give you a really good overview. But what I will tell you is that, I'm so excited because Rome wasn't built in a day. And today we just finalized how we're building out our key partners supporting decentralization. So by the time people see this, you're going to be able to go to that section, and you are going to be able to sign up for my monthly newsletter. And then you're going to get an amazing bonus guide that's going to unlock the world of cryptocurrency for you, just for signing up for the newsletter. But then you're going to gain access to the key partners supporting decentralization. And Mike, Miles Franklin is in there. There are many, but I will tell you, people who go through there, they are going to get these special pre-negotiated discounts, et cetera, or white gloves treatment that I've really worked hard on establishing. But probably the big winner in it all, Mike, is the tax saving strategy that people have never heard of.
Oh yeah, I know. It's like a hidden gem.
Yes, it's a lawful hidden gem. And of the people that I've presented it to, everybody is just like, I did not know this existed. So that only that's not in the key partners section. Well, it is. It's a link to book an hour with me.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I want to plug them too. But again, decentralizeddirectory.com, that's the site that you're referring to. But also if you go to abovephone.com and you put /DTV, that's our affiliate sponsor for the de-Googled phones, which I'm really enjoying. And Ramiro, who we interviewed previously, is super sharp. And this is a replacement for your spy device, your Google phone, or your highly radioactive Apple iPhone that the nation of France has banned for having unlawful levels of radiation.
Wow.
By the way, so yeah, if you love radiation, you'll love your iPhone. Go to abovephone.com/DTV, get yourself a replacement for your Android or your iPhone, and your phone will no longer spy on you. And the good news is you can buy everything at Above Phone with cryptocurrency, including privacy crypto such as Monero. Now, I do want to tell people there's a little bit of a tech learning curve to get all the apps and the phone number and everything up and running. It's not as simple as just turning it on, but once you go through it, it's totally worth it. And then you're no longer talking to the cell towers as a phone number. You're using data only, which means you're not going to be caught in any geofencing warrants or any other nonsense like that. And the phone itself isn't spying on you. It's not reporting to Google. Google's the biggest spy of all.
Right. And Mike, I'm so excited because I got my shipment. I ordered one of these from Ramiro, and it came in 2 days ago.
Oh, cool.
So I haven't set it up yet, but I'm amazingly excited, and I did pay for it with Monero.
Perfect. Yeah,
Yep.
just right. And you can also recharge the SIM card, the data card, with Monero.
Okay.
Which I've done that. I've tested that function and it works fine. It's
beautiful.
Just like it should. And also, Ramiro told us he's coming out with a laptop that I don't know anything more about that yet, but that's coming. So we'll keep everybody posted.
Hey, if you don't mind, I want to give one more plug because
Sure.
I totally rebranded my YouTube channel to where it's just, if you search for Decentralized Directory, it'll pop up.
Okay.
And I had Andy Scheckman on today for
Oh,
a
that's
wonderful
awesome.
interview. And you know what, Mike? He's going to come on weekly, every Thursday at noon Eastern,
Wow.
to give a market report. And super excited about it. I think we had some good chemistry, like you and I have some good chemistry. So I'm excited about that. And Ramiro, I'm interviewing him tomorrow at noon.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so we're going to be talking about my new toy. and he's going to give some insight into that new laptop. So,
okay.
Yeah,
Very cool.
abovephone.com/DTV.
Well, Andy Schechtman is he's extraordinary. His knowledge of what's happening in the world of currency and gold and BRICS nations.
Yeah.
He's been, frankly, the tip of the spear talking about what's coming, and he's been right again and again. So I can't wait. Will you send me a link to that interview? I would really love to listen to that.
I will send it right after this show.
Okay. Yeah. Andy Schechtman's been one of my favorite people in that space for many years, and he really knows his stuff.
He does, and he sure does love him some Mike Adams. He was just very complimentary on the interview.
Was he? Really?
Yep. Absolutely.
Well, I mean, look, I guess we're all helping people in whatever way we can. And so we tend to build a lot of friends around us. Yep. And also part of that is just that, even though there are things for sale, like the phone or the clothing or whatever, we give away knowledge for free, knowledge that is life-changing knowledge.
Yes.
And that's, I believe in that. I know you believe in that. And we practice that ourselves. Andy Schechtman believes in that. It doesn't cost you anything to listen to these interviews and learn life-changing information, right? And and I tell you what, Mike, you exude this. I hope I do too, but it's like we're coming from the right place. We do want to share with people, and I personally, I'm not suggesting people through decentralized directory do anything that I haven't personally done. Right?
It's almost like I'm just telling my story in there. And I'm saying, hey, this is what I did here and here and here and here. And this is how it's worked. And I'd encourage you to do it too. Here's how you go about it. It's really, really simple. But I just want people to keep more of what they earn, right, Mike?
Yep.
And then get decentralized. That's been our mission from the beginning, hasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And we practice what we preach, and we do it ourselves. I mean, I guess that's redundant, but in all these areas, finance, food, liberty, freedom, you name it. So, but again, just wrapping this up in terms of Richard Grove, I love the fact that he's teaching this. Now, his course is not free, and I still don't know the price. I imagine it's not inexpensive, but then again, what are you getting for it is probably life-changing information from someone who's proven successful in that world. And you think about, again, where we are going. I truly believe that every person is going to have more skills about bartering, buying, selling, even home manufacturing things. I mean, economies are about to become a lot more local. The global supply chains are collapsing. Globalism itself is collapsing. So in a more local situation, you're going to have more of those skills yourself about manufacturing perhaps, or growing, or offering services. And even if you offer services to other people in your community, you're going to have to sell that concept to them. They'd be like, why should I hire you to do whatever? And the answer could be, because I'm the only one in town that knows how to change a tractor tire. Like,
sure,
have you ever tried
that? Change. Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty easy sell right there. Oh, okay, yeah, because nobody else knows how to do that. But anyway, it's a skill set that's going to be very, very important. So
one of the guys, Mike, installing the food forest, he built my fence. I don't call it a fence, though. It's a trellis, because the HOA wouldn't allow me to build a fence, for crying out loud. But but you can sure put up a trellis. Mine was just an extra sturdy trellis. But anyway, this guy who built it, he was a perfectionist. They call him MacGyver because he just can do anything. And I asked him, I'm like, TJ, how on earth did you learn all of these skills to do what you do? And he says, I just started doing it. That's it. I just started doing it. Long time ago, I just started doing it. And I'm like, God, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And I told him, I said, not me. I just started paying for it.
Well, you can jump in now anytime you want, since it's in your own backyard.
That's right.
So maybe we can convince DTV Man to help you. He'll probably just stand around and act like he's president, but who knows? All right. Well, thanks, Todd. It's been a fun show. We appreciate you. We'll do it again.
This is DTV, man, but you can call him Joe.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you, Mike. This was another good one. I appreciate it. And I think your haircut looks great, man.
Oh, well, thank you. I don't know. I just keep cutting it shorter and shorter. We'll see if I have any hair left when this is over. But I do want to see what happens if I put DTV Man on the floor and I have my dog attack him. But I think I'll do that on the next show in case he rips his face off. So we still have him for the next show. But I do want to try that on the next show.
You know how to keep him coming back, Mike.
That's what I'm going to do. Okay, next show, DTV Man gets attacked by Rhodey.
Yeah.
That's what's happening. Okay. Tune in. All right. Take care, Todd.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
All right. We'll see you, everybody. Thanks for watching today. Decentralized.tv for more episodes in case you missed any of them. They're all good. Thanks for watching today. I'm Mike Adams, the founder of Brighteon.com. Take care.